So Marine Mills Folk School is a very young organization. We opened our doors October of 2018. Our emphasis is on hands-on learning. That is the tradition of a folk school, but that bonding that happens in a folk school class is really amazing. We bring people together to learn a traditional skill, but they leave with more connections to people. Over time, we think we can create world peace through traditional skills just by making those connections, giving opportunities for differing people to make connections. And to date, it seems to be working.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. A Minnesotan has now been diagnosed with a presumptive case of coronavirus.
Today we learned that Minnesota's first confirmed case of COVID-19 coronavirus is here.
For weeks, state leaders have expected it would happen, and today...
When I saw what was beginning to happen with COVID, I kind of maybe knew or surmised perhaps before others what it could mean. I had worked on pandemic planning 10 years ago when we were first beginning to think about this and realize the implications.
You know, when the whole COVID thing hit a year ago, we're like, oh boy, we were just hitting this sort of momentum. And then COVID hit, and it's like, seriously, stop everything.
We made the decision initially that we didn't think our focus on community could be sustained by doing anything other than in-person classes. We also did a survey where we asked our participants, our potential students, would you be interested in taking online classes? And there was a large percentage of people that said, I spend my day on Zoom or a similar kind of platform, and I have no interest in taking a class on the weekend or at night.
The folk school paused right away after COVID. Partly people needed a little bit of a breath because we were working every single Saturday, the board members were. And you're sort of like, oh, okay, I can take a few Saturdays off here. But then once we had a little bit of time under our belts, then the conversation about, well, now what? And then the whole, well, let's just try this online thing. We don't have anything to lose, but it seems like it's a happening thing, and that's good. It's pretty neat to see. That's exciting.
So I decided to try to do a perspective for just the mug sitting in front of me and with the shadows.
Awesome.
Oh, that's good.
I like that.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, nice shading.
When I think about, where we were in March or April, to imagine what a wide variety of classes we could offer and how well they would come off. And I think the instructors have gotten great too. I mean, just in the classes I've been able to watch, we've all gotten way better at this, better than we ever would have imagined.
It was an experiment. None of us knew what we were doing, but we were able to expand our offerings. We were able to make our instructors comfortable. And I think, very importantly, our students were starved for working with their hands and challenging themselves to escape from their day-to-day living and just focus on what they're doing in front of them. And our instructors have been so great. We've had a cooking class from two fabulous instructors in Argentina. So we've been able to offer people experiences that they might not have otherwise had to see firsthand other cultures.
I think people that may have not even found us heard about it and did an online class who may have never made the trek out here from, uptown Minneapolis or whatever. One thing that I'm the most proud of is our intergenerational classes.
That's pretty cool when you have the teenager and then the mother and then the grandmother and then possibly the aunt that lives in California or whatever, all doing that same class together as a family. That's pretty neat.
It still brings people together, whether it's in a Zoom class or not.
The catalyst for starting the folk school was the closing of the elementary school.
We are a small community, so a lot of things happened at this school, not necessarily for K-6, for the elementary kids and those parents, but for the community as a whole.
At that time, we started looking into purchasing the school with the hopes that we'd have a charter school here. And so that's what we were doing when actually the folk school kind of began.
For the first year, almost a year, we were a mobile folk school because we just used whatever areas we could get to teach. Like our paddle making class was in one of our teachers' garages, just because that worked. And then Gamel Garden in Scandia was just fabulous to work with, and they have a beautiful space, and they allowed us to do classes there. The church right across the road from here, so generous, using their commercial kitchen to do our cooking classes in. So yeah, we kind of didn't have a real address. We were like the hobo folk school for the first year. And that's not easy. And it's also not secure. You know, you don't feel like you have a home base. Classes were fun, classes were well attended, but it wasn't like we had a home base. So being able to finally come to an agreement with the city of Marine, who has been amazing, and letting us have use of this space for a very good deal for us and them, you know, having somebody in here is pretty important too.
So the lease to the folk school is really important for the city to have people in the building and using the building. And so also a lease kind of signifies that we're supportive and we are there as a partner with the folk school. And I really believe it's important that we renew that lease. It's coming up. We're having discussions now. We don't know how and when COVID is going to allow the school to get back, but we fully intend to work with the folk school to get a lease signed again. And I think it's really important.
The taxpayers are like, please put something in that building. And they're very, very in favor of it. Financially, is it feasible to continue on without other revenue streams coming in? Probably not in terms of a taxpayer living in this community. So that is probably one of the biggest challenges ahead of us, to be honest.
Getting a folk school off the ground is a lot of work. It's a ton of just communication, beating the ground, finding artisans who want to teach and people who want to, what people want to take classes in. It's just a lot of research and publicity, and it's not easy. It takes a lot of time and energy.
Our challenge right now is to expand staffing capabilities of the folk school. We are being run completely 100% by volunteer board members. And we all got into it knowing that that was going to happen for the first few years. But it's time to transition to letting the board be a nonprofit board and lend strategic direction to the organization and not be a hands-on running the classes day to day. And that's a challenge. We had great momentum going a year ago on our way to solving that problem when we had to crash, as did the whole rest of the world. And that momentum stopped. Now we are starting to build it up again, and we will, but it's just going to delay us by about a year. What I'm encouraged about is that when we have a problem, one can recognize it, because you never can solve a problem if you don't know you've got it. And two, the board is committed to trying to solve that and move on and make us better and better all the time.
You know, we're going to focus on developing some specific studios for woodworking and focus on different aspects of the areas that we really want to grow. But I'm just excited about getting going again. I think the end is in sight of the pandemic, so we can really start dreaming big again.
So my hope for the folk school is that it does grow, and I hope that it continues to offer really enlightening classes for the folks who live here in the city, plus in the valley. And I also hope that when people find out about the folk school and they come here, that they take a look around and they see what we have here. And it's also very important to understand that what we want to do is preserve some of what we have in our town. And so by having the folk school here, that's an anchor, and we hope it will remain an anchor to our community.
People seem to be hungry for this kind of knowledge and this kind of connection. We have barely scratched the surface of what we can do yet. We all know we have to take baby steps, and this is not a 1 or 2 year project. This is a 20-year project. but we will be there in 20 years, and we will be offering a lot that will improve, I think, both the culture and the economy in the St. Croix River Valley.